Part 1, The Front Row Felony. I hate you. I want you to know that eternally, in this life and the next, I absolutely hate you. Daniel didn't even look up from his phone as he muttered the words. He was currently shoved against a cold metal barricade, his ribs aching from the sheer pressure of 3,000 screaming bodies pressing in behind him. Oh, stop being a drama queen. Sam yelled back, her voice already hoarse, her face glowing with a mix of sweat and neon strobe lights. She gripped his shoulder, shaking him violently. This is Chan. Do you know how hard it was to get front row VIP tickets? People would literally trade a kidney for this spot. I would gladly trade my kidney to be on my couch right now, Daniel droned. Daniel was an archivist. He liked quiet libraries, the smell of old paper, and a decibel level that didn't threaten permanent tinnitus. Chan, on the other hand, was a rising indie pop god known for raw, emotional vocals, explosive stage presence, and a fiercely protective fan base. Daniel didn't know a single one of his songs. The lights slammed to pitch black. The crowd let out a collective, ear-piercing shriek that made Daniel's eardrums throb. Sensing the impending doom of a 2-hour set, Daniel reached into his pocket, pulled out his noise-cancelling loops, shoved them into his ears, and pulled his oversized hoodie over his head. He adjusted his glasses, unlocked his phone, and opened Instagram. If he was going to be trapped in purgatory, he was at least going to watch cooking reels. A massive bass drop shook the floorboards. The curtain swept back, and the crowd went absolutely feral. Chan bounced onto the stage, a whirlwind of chaotic charisma. He wore a ripped denim jacket over a white tank top, his dark, messy hair falling over intense, smoky eyes. He grabbed the microphone, hit a perfect, soaring intro note, and walked straight to the edge of the catwalk, right above the front row. Fans were weeping. Sam was jumping so high she was practically airborne. And then there was Daniel. Daniel was currently watching a video of a man assembling a miniature, functional kitchen to bake a strawberry cake the size of a quarter. He was completely checked out, his thumb idly scrolling, the screen casting a bright, blue glow across his bored face. From the stage, Chan was feeding off the crowd's energy, scanning the front row to make eye contact with his devotees. His eye swept past a crying girl, a guy holding a sign, and then they snagged. Chan stopped mid-stride. Right beneath him was a guy in a giant beige hoodie. The guy wasn't looking up. He wasn't singing. He wasn't even listening. Chan looked closer and saw the unmistakable gleam of wireless earbuds. The guy was actively watching a video of a golden retriever puppy swinging in a hammock. Chan's blood boiled. Front row. People fought, cried, and bled for these seats, and this hipster was using it as a charging station to scroll social media. Chan's ego, inflated by months of sold-out stadiums, took a sharp, bruising hit. Chan kept singing, but his eyes locked onto the back of Daniel's head like a heat-seeking missile. He sang the entire second verse straight to Daniel, expecting the guy to feel the burning gaze of a pop star and look up. Daniel didn't move. The puppy in the hammock had been replaced by a woodworking video. Chan's patience snapped. He was known for being fiery, but this was a blatant insult. He walked over to his guitarist, gave a sharp hand signal, and the music abruptly ground to a halt. A heavy, confused silence fell over the arena. Chan stood at the edge of the stage, towering over the barricade, looking directly down at Daniel. Hey, Chan's voice boomed through the high-end sound system. Daniel didn't look up. Sam, however, realized what was happening. Her jaw dropped, and she frantically began slapping Daniel's arm. Daniel! Daniel! Look up! Oh my God, look up! Daniel, annoyed, pulled out one earbud. What? Is it over? No, sweetheart, it's not over, Chan's voice echoed through the speakers, dripping with sarcastic venom. Daniel blinked, finally looking up. He found himself staring directly into the glaring, impossibly handsome face of Chan, who was leaning over the stage, mic pressed to his lips. The entire arena's spotlight swung around, blinding Daniel. 3,000 pairs of eyes burned into him. Am I boring you? Chan asked, his voice dangerously soft but amplified for thousands to hear. Daniel froze. He felt a sudden, suffocating wave of heat rush up his neck. Ah. No? Because you've been staring at your little screen for the last 20 minutes, Chan said, pacing the edge of the stage like a predator, his dark eyes locking onto Daniel's with an intense, burning heat. Look, I get it. Not everyone has taste. But there are thousands of people outside who actually wanted to be here. So, if you'd rather watch TikToks, why don't you take your cute little hoodie and make room for a real fan? Security can show you the door. A collective boo rippled through the crowd. Someone in the back booed. Daniel felt his face turn crimson. He looked at Sam, who looked horrified, and then back at Chan. The pop star had a smug, arrogant smirk on his face, expecting Daniel to either apologize or cower. Instead, a switch flipped in Daniel. He was humiliated, yes, but he was also incredibly annoyed. He hadn't wanted to come here in the first place, his ribs hurt, and now some arrogant 20-something in a torn shirt was lecturing him. Daniel slowly stood up straight, stuffing his phone into his pocket. He didn't look scared, he looked profoundly unimpressed. He reached into his ears, pulled out the other earbud, and looked Chan dead in the eye. "Great idea," Daniel said loudly. Daniel turned around, pushed his way through the stunned crowd, and walked out of the arena, leaving a bewildered best friend and a thoroughly shocked pop star behind him. Part 2, The Echo in the Silence. The backstage dressing room was trashed. Not because Chan had thrown a tantrum, but because he couldn't pace around it fast enough. The concert had finished an hour ago. It should have been a triumph. The crowd had cheered louder after the incident, rallying behind their idol. But Chan couldn't shake it. He couldn't shake the look on that guy's face. Profoundly unimpressed. Usually, when Chan called out a fan, they apologized, cried, or got excited for the attention. But that guy, the one with the sharp jawline, the messy dark hair, and the wire-rimmed glasses that caught the stage lights, had looked at Chan like he was an annoying fly. "Chan, let it go," his manager, Mark, sighed, rubbing his temples. "The internet is already talking about it. Chan destroys disrespectful fan. It's fine PR, move on." "He wasn't disrespecting me," Chan muttered, stopping his pacing. "He didn't even care enough to disrespect me. He literally didn't know who I was, Mark. He looked at me like I was a minor inconvenience." "So? You're a famous musician. Not everyone is going to love you." "No, you don't get it," Chan muttered, pulling his hair. He closed his eyes, and all he could see was the way the guy's eyes had locked onto his. They were amber brown. Dark, steady, and completely unbothered. Chan pulled out his phone. He opened Instagram and searched his own tagged photos from the concert. He scrolled past hundreds of photos of himself until he found a video a fan had posted of the incident. The video captured it perfectly. Chan's arrogant call-out, and then the guy's reaction. On camera, the guy looked even more striking. The oversized beige hoodie made him look soft, but his posture was rigid, his expression cool and collected. When he turned to walk away, the camera caught a glimpse of his VIP lanyard. Chan zoomed in. The text was blurry, but there was a serial number. "Mark," Chan said, his voice dangerously quiet. "Who bought VIP ticket number 0442? Chan, absolutely not. We are not docs. I don't want to dox him." Chan snapped, a strange, frantic energy buzzing under his skin. I want to know who he is." By midnight, Chan had used his connections with the venue's ticketing office to get the name attached to the VIP package. It belonged to a Samantha Cruz. A quick search of Samantha's public Instagram revealed dozens of photos of her, but one specific post from 3 weeks ago caught Chan's eye. It was a photo of her and the hoodie guy at a local coffee shop. The caption read, *celebrating 10 years of forcing my favorite archivist to leave his cave. Happy birthday, Daniel. Daniel. Chan stared at the photo. Daniel wasn't smiling for the camera, he was looking down at a book, a faint, amused smirk playing on his lips while Samantha made a goofy face. He looked entirely different in the sunlight. Normal. Quiet. Grounded. Chan felt a bizarre, unfamiliar tug in his chest. He was surrounded by people who screamed his name, who painted their faces for him, who hung on his every word. Yet, he couldn't stop staring at a photo of a guy who preferred a book to a stadium. Chan clicked on Daniel's tagged handle, @Daniel_Vane. The account was private. The profile picture was just a close-up of an old, leather-bound book sleeve. Chan leaned back on the velvet couch of his tour bus, the neon lights of the highway blurring outside his window. He could just let it go. He should let it go. Instead, he created a private account, clicked to follow, and began his descent into an obsession he couldn't yet name. Over the next 2 weeks, Chan used his resources to find out everything he could, where Daniel worked, the route he took home, the quiet coffee shops he frequented. He found himself driving past the Municipal Archives building late at night, watching the dim basement lights from his tinted car windows, desperate to see that calm, unimpressed face just one more time. Part 3, The Breaking Point. Daniel loved the Municipal Archives. It was located in the basement of a historic building, damp, cool and silent. For 2 weeks, he had successfully ignored the fallout of the concert. Sam had apologized profusely, and though a few people online had tried to identify him as the hoodie guy, the internet's attention span was short, and the storm had blown over. Until Tuesday afternoon, right at closing time. Daniel was at his desk, carefully using a soft brush to clean the dust off a 1920s city ledger. The bell above the archive door chimed. He didn't look up. Welcome to the archives. We close in 5 minutes. Good thing I only need a few minutes. The voice was low, slightly raspy, and entirely too familiar. Daniel froze. The brush halted mid-air. He slowly turned his head. Standing by the counter was a man wearing a black baseball cap pulled low, a pair of dark sunglasses, and an oversized flannel shirt. Despite the disguise, Daniel recognized the sharp line of the jaw and the slight, arrogant tilt of the head immediately. Chan. Daniel stared at him, entirely unamused. You're in the wrong place. The stadium is 3 miles north. Chan pulled down his sunglasses, letting them rest on the bridge of his nose. His dark eyes locked onto Daniel's, a burning intensity simmering beneath the surface. I think I'm exactly where I want to be. Daniel. Daniel's eyes narrowed. Hearing his name slip from the pop star's mouth sent a strange, sudden spike of heat down his spine. How do you know my name? And how did you find me? Chan didn't answer right away. Instead, he walked past the heavy wooden counter, stepping directly into Daniel's private workspace. The heavy oak doors of the archive kicked shut behind him, clicking locked with a definitive sound. That's called stalking, Daniel said flatly, his heart rate spiking as Chan closed the distance between them. Chan smelled like expensive cologne, leather, and something intensely masculine that made Daniel's throat go dry. I prefer the term highly motivated, Chan murmured, his voice dropping an octave. He stopped just inches away from Daniel, towering over him, his chest nearly brushing against Daniel's beige hoodie. I couldn't sleep, Daniel. Every time I close my eyes, I see you looking at me like I'm absolutely nothing. No one looks at me like that. Well, get used to it, Daniel said, trying to maintain his cool, though his breath caught as Chan trapped him against the heavy archive desk. You're arrogant, you're loud, and you're invading my space. Am I? Chan stepped even closer, his thigh pressing against Daniel's. The sudden, intense friction sent a jolt of pure adrenaline straight to Daniel's core. Chan's eyes dropped down to Daniel's lips, his gaze darkening with a heavy, unchecked hunger. Because for 2 weeks, all I've wanted to do was break that calm, quiet composure of yours and see what you look like when you're completely unraveled. Before Daniel could utter a scathing retort, Chan's hand shot out, his long fingers wrapping firmly around the nape of Daniel's neck, pulling him forward. The kiss was explosive, a collision of 2 weeks of pent-up obsession and sudden, raw desire. Chan didn't ask, he took. His lips were hot, pressing hard against Daniel's, parting them with a demanding force that left Daniel breathless. A sharp gasp escaped Daniel's throat, which Chan immediately drank down, his tongue sliding into Daniel's mouth, sweeping, dominant and possessive. Daniel's brain short-circuited. He should have pushed him away, should have fought back, but the sheer, intoxicating heat of Chan's body pressed flush against his own awoke something fiercely dormant inside him. Daniel's hands, originally rising to push Chan away, gripped the front of Chan's flannel shirt instead, pulling him closer as he began to kiss back with an unexpected, matching ferocity. Chan groaned against Daniel's mouth, the sound deep and vibrating against Daniel's chest. He backed Daniel up until the small of Daniel's back hit the edge of the large wooden desk, scattering loose papers to the floor. Chan's free hand slid under Daniel's oversized hoodie, his palms hot and slightly rough against the bare skin of Daniel's waist. Daniel shivered violently at the touch, his arches flexing inside his shoes as Chan gripped his hip, pulling Daniel's pelvis tightly against his own hard length. God, you're so hot, Chan gasped out, breaking the kiss for a fraction of a second to trail his lips down Daniel's jawline, biting softly at the sensitive skin of his neck. Daniel threw his head back, his glasses sliding slightly down his nose, a soft, involuntary moan echoing through the empty, silent archives. Chan's hands were frantic now, ripping off his own cap and sunglasses, letting them discard onto the floor as he focused entirely on Daniel. He pulled Daniel's hoodie up and over his head, leaving him in just his undershirt, his chest heaving. Chan's eye swept over Daniel's flushed skin, his dark gaze burning with a fierce satisfaction. Look at me, Chan commanded softly, his thumbs stroking Daniel's burning cheeks. Daniel opened his eyes, his vision slightly blurred, his amber-brown gaze locking onto Chan's. There was no boredom left in him, only a heavy, unmistakable lust that mirrored Chan's own. Chan smirked, a breathless, victorious smile that sent a thrill straight through Daniel's veins. He leaned back in, his mouth devouring Daniel's once more, slower this time, deeper, marking him completely in the quiet sanctuary of the library, ensuring that neither of them would ever be able to forget this night. Part 4. The heat of the archives. The ambient hum of the building's old ventilation system was the only sound left in the basement, entirely eclipsed by the ragged, desperate breathing of the 2 men locked inside the workspace. Chan didn't give Daniel a chance to recover. The moment Daniel's amber eyes met his with that heavy, unvarnished surrender, Chan's restraint evaporated. He gripped Daniel's thighs, lifting him effortlessly onto the high edge of the oak desk. Daniel gasped, his hands instantly flying to Chan's broad shoulders for balance as his legs parted to accommodate Chan's thick frame stepping firmly between them. The friction of Chan's heavy denim trousers rubbing against Daniel's inner thigh sent a bolt of heat straight to his lower belly. "You have no idea what you've done to me," Chan growled against Daniel's mouth, his voice raw, stripped of all the polished pop star perfection. 2 weeks of watching you from afar. 2 weeks of picturing exactly this. Chan's hands moved with a frantic, possessive urgency. He reached down and gripped the hem of Daniel's undershirt, tugging it upward and throwing it blindly into the shadows of the archive stacks. In the dim light, Daniel's chest was pale, smooth, and rising and falling in sharp, shallow pants. The contrast between Daniel's quiet, intellectual aura and the flushed, naked vulnerability of his skin was driving Chan completely over the edge. Chan leaned down, his tongue trailing a wet, burning path from the center of Daniel's collarbone down to his sternum. Daniel whimpered, his fingers digging desperately into the muscles of Chan's back, his spine arching off the wooden desk. When Chan's mouth swirled around one of his flat, tight nipples, a loud, uninhibited moan broke from Daniel's lips, echoing off the high stone ceiling. "Chan, wait," Daniel gasped out, his head thrashing back against a stack of uncatalogued folios. The sensation was too intense, too sudden. He was a man who lived in the quiet safety of his mind, and Chan was a physical storm tearing through him. "I can't wait," Chan breathed, looking up, his dark eyes pitch black with desire. He reached for the button of Daniel's trousers, undoing it with practiced speed. "I've waited long enough." Chan pulled the fabric down, dragging Daniel's boxers along with them, exposing Daniel's rigid, leaking length to the cool air of the basement. Daniel shivered, instinctively trying to close his legs to hide, but Chan caught his knees, pushing them wider apart, pinning them against his own hips. Chan stared down at him, his gaze heavy, dark, and utterly consuming. He reached into his flannel pocket, pulling out a small, foil packet, a detail that made Daniel's heart leap into his throat. Chan had come here prepared. He had never intended to leave without breaking Daniel completely. With his teeth, Chan tore the packet open. He slicked his fingers with the lubricant, his eyes never leaving Daniel's face. "Look at me, Daniel," Chan commanded softly, his voice dripping with an intoxicating authority. "Don't look away." Daniel gripped the edge of the desk so hard his knuckles turned stark white. He stared into Chan's eyes as Chan brought 2 slick fingers down to the tight, pulsing heat between Daniel's thighs. The moment the first finger pressed inside, Daniel let out a sharp, choked cry, his hips twitching upward. "Relax for me," Chan whispered, leaning down to press a soft, reassuring kiss to Daniel's trembling lips while his fingers worked inside him, stretching him with a slow, agonizing thoroughness. "You're so tight, baby. So perfect." The pet name, delivered in Chan's deep, raspy tone, sent a wave of pure lust straight to Daniel's core. He relaxed into the touch, his body opening up, accepting the intrusion as Chan added a second finger, scissor pressing inside until Daniel was twisting on the desk, a desperate, needy friction building between his own erect length and his lower abdomen. "Chan, please," Daniel begged, his voice entirely wrecked. He didn't even recognize himself anymore. He didn't care about the archives, his quiet life, or the fact that this man had stalked him. He just needed the burning ache inside him to be filled. "Please." Part 5, Complete Surrender. Chan didn't need to be told twice. He quickly shed his own trousers, freeing his massive, aching erection. He donned the protection with trembling, eager hands, his breath coming in ragged hitches as he looked down at the man completely unraveled beneath him. Chan lifted Daniel's legs higher, draping Daniel's calves over his broad shoulders. The position exposed Daniel completely, leaving him entirely vulnerable to Chan's gaze. "You're beautiful," Chan muttered, his voice thick with emotion. He aligned himself with Daniel's pulsing entrance. Slowly, deliberately, Chan pressed forward. Daniel's eyes went wide behind his glasses, which were still miraculously sitting askew on his nose. A loud, breathless sob tore from his throat as Chan's thick head stretched him open, slowly sliding an inch, then 2, into his receptive heat. The fullness was overwhelming, bordering on a brilliant, exquisite pain that made Daniel's vision blur. "Ah God, Chan, hang on, stop," Daniel cried out, his hands gripping Chan's biceps like lifelines. Chan paused, his chest heaving, his own body trembling from the sheer, agonizing restraint it took not to hammer into Daniel completely. He leaned down, burying his face in the crook of Daniel's neck, inhaling his scent of old paper and clean soap. I'm stopping. Breathe, Daniel. Just breathe." Chan waited, his hips perfectly still, allowing Daniel's tight, velvet walls to stretch and accommodate his imposing size. Slowly, the tight tension in Daniel's thighs began to dissipate. He let out a long, shaky exhale, his inner muscles pulsing rhythmically around Chan, drawing him deeper in an involuntary invitation. Okay, Daniel whispered, a flash covering his entire body. Okay. Move. Chan didn't hesitate. He pulled back slightly and then drove forward, burying his entire length inside Daniel in one deep, unyielding stroke. Daniel screamed, the sound muffled against Chan's shoulder as Chan locked his mouth over Daniel's, consuming the noise. The sheer depth of the penetration hit Daniel's sweetest spot instantly, sending a violent jolt of pleasure straight to his brain. Chan began to move in earnest. His strokes were heavy, dominant, and unyielding. Each time he pulled back, he went nearly all the way out, only to plunge back in with a rhythmic, devastating force that made the heavy oak desk creak under their combined weight. Loose historical documents slid off the edges, fluttering into the darkness, completely forgotten. Daniel was entirely lost to the rhythm. His hips began to lift instinctively, meeting Chan's heavy thrusts, his head tossing from side to side. Every time Chan's pelvis slammed against his, a high-pitched, needy sound escaped him. "Do you like this?" Chan growled, his hands moving to grip Daniel's waist, his fingers bruising the soft skin as he anchored him for faster, harder thrusts. "Tell me you like it." "I love it, yes, Chan, right there, please." Daniel cried out, his glasses finally flying off his face, clattering uselessly onto the desk. He didn't care. He could see Chan's dark, feral expression perfectly fine through the haze of pure lust. Chan shifted the angle, lifting Daniel's hips even higher. He began to target Daniel's prostrate with a ruthless, unerring precision. Daniel's internal walls clamped down tightly around him, milking him with every single stroke. Daniel was hovering right on the edge of a shattering climax, his unchecked length leaking heavily onto his own stomach, entirely untouched. The sheer internal stimulation Chan was providing was enough to undo him. "Chan, I'm close." Daniel gasped out, his toes curling, his fingers clawing at the smooth wood of the desk. "Come for me, Daniel. Let me feel it," Chan groaned, his pace turning chaotic, fast, and punishingly deep. He was close too, the tight, burning heat of Daniel's body constricting around him like a vice, dragging him toward the precipice. With a final, desperate surge, Chan drove deep into Daniel, hitting his sweet spot repeatedly. Daniel let out a broken, high-pitched wail as his body convulsed, his release spurting thickly across his chest and abdomen in hot, heavy waves. The internal contractions of Daniel's climax instantly broke Chan's remaining control. With a deep, guttural roar that echoed through the empty basement, Chan thrust one last time, holding himself deep inside Daniel as his own release exploded into the protection, filling it to the brim. Part 6, Aftershocks. The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by the wet, sticky sounds of their parting bodies and the synchronized, exhausted breathing of two men completely spent. Chan slowly slid out of Daniel, a low groan escaping him as his muscles complained. He carefully removed the protection, knotting it and tossing it into a nearby wastebasket, before turning his full attention back to the man on the desk. Daniel lay there, his pale skin covered in a sheen of sweat and a flush that extended from his cheeks down to his thighs. His breath was still coming in shallow hiccups, his eyes half closed, looking thoroughly unraveled. The quiet, stern archivist from the front row was completely gone, replaced by a beautiful, messy reality that Chan had created. Chan smiled softly, a genuine, warm expression that held none of his stage arrogance. He reached over, picked up Daniel's wire-rimmed glasses from where they had fallen, and gently slipped them back onto Daniel's face. Daniel blinked, his vision refocusing on Chan's handsome, sweat-streaked face. He looked down at his own messy chest, then back up at the pop star. A faint, amused, and slightly embarrassed smirk played on his swollen lips. "You're a menace," Daniel whispered, his voice incredibly hoarse. Chan chuckled, leaning down to press a soft, lingering kiss to Daniel's forehead, his fingers gently tangling in Daniel's messy dark hair. "I told you. I was going to make sure I was the only thing you wanted to look at." Daniel rolled his eyes, but he didn't push Chan away when the musician wrapped his strong arms around his bare waist, pulling him close against his chest right there on the edge of the desk. "So," Chan murmured, his lips brushing against Daniel's ear. "Are you going to block my burner account now?" Daniel let out a soft, breathless laugh, his hands resting over Chan's heart, feeling the steady, rapid beat beneath his palms. "I'll think about it. But only if you promise to never interrupt my cooking reels again." "Deal," Chan whispered, kissing him deeply one more time, sealing a quiet, chaotic bond born from a front-row felony.